Maori, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Kiribati. The local time is 12 o'clock and the outside temperature a warm 31 degrees Celsius.
This is Kiribati. We're Michael and Steph, and 3 days ago we left Belgium to start our journey to Kiribati. As one of the most remote countries in the world, it takes us 72 hours, 3 layovers and 8 airline meals to finally arrive here.
Maori, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Kiribati. The local time is 12 o'clock and the outside temperature a warm 31 degrees Celsius.
Needless to say, Kiribati is one of the least visited countries in the world. Welcoming no more than 6,000 tourists a year, you'll find fewer visitors here than in North Korea. And it doesn't take a long time to figure out why.
Eindelijk in Kiribati, 3 dagen onderweg geweest en dan komen we hier terecht. Het spel heet Zoek de bagage, voorlopig enkel verliezers, geen winnaars.
Wat is dit? Echt, wat is dit?
But we have to admit, the long trip pays off. The country looks like a fairy tale paradise. Kiribati consists of 33 islands scattered in the Pacific Ocean. It has 115,000 inhabitants. The country is well known for 2 reasons. Every year they're the first ones to celebrate New Year's, but they're also the first country to disappear due to climate change. And that's why we're here.
Maori, my name is Rikamas Nare. I have with me this time Jew documentary makers from Belgium. I'd like to welcome you to Radio Kiribati from the Maori.
Maori.
2 Belgians making a documentary about their country is such a big deal that we are invited to talk about the issue at their most popular radio station. Too bad the room isn't prepared for 2 guests, and neither are the cameras.
It's so absurd. There's actually a country gonna disappear while we'll be alive. And that's really strange. So it's our last chance to do something about it and to come here and to see it and to experience it, yeah.
While we still can, we can go and visit Kiribati and try to explain the story in Europe.
Like global warming and stuff, it's so far away for us. It's gonna maybe have an impact on our lives in like 50 years or so, but you feel the impact every day.
Even though we just arrived, the impact immediately shows. No matter where we look, the water is everywhere, even in people's houses. After our interview on the radio, we're invited to visit 2 listeners.
It happens during the daytime when it's high tide and it becomes a big wave coming. And then we had a sea wall, as you can see, some part of the sea wall. The first thing that happens, it breaks the sea wall, and there when the water comes in right inside the land, and it takes away everything, even our houses.
My first house is in the water. My second house is also in the water, and then my last house was just on the beach here.
Where do you live now?
Now I live further inland, just to move away from the ocean side.
I'm afraid. What about our future? Even our children, what is the future of our children, our grandchildren? So sad.
Every year, I think the land lose about 1.5 meters every year.
The most narrow point of the island is only 4 meters wide. At some places, the road has even washed away.
Right now we just make this engine to warm up.
Yeah.
To reach the house of former President Anote Tong, we're forced to take a boat.
I have the honor to welcome to the United Nations Anote Tong, President of the Republic of Kiribati.
For more than 12 years, Anote Tong was president of Kiribati. During his 3 terms in office, he became world famous for his efforts to raise global awareness on climate change.
And we need action now.
We don't have hurricanes, we don't have cyclones. But last year we did. And that is a change. If we keep having storms like that, there will be nothing left of these islands. You don't have to be very smart to understand the kind of damage that is likely to come. Well, you can see what we have here. And when the high tide is in, there's very little land above the high tide. And another meter, well, a lot of the land is going to be underwater. I think already we are seeing communities whose livelihood is being threatened. I believe within 5 to 10 years they'll have to leave those islands. Okay, and it's already happening. You saw some spots there. There are people who should be leaving those spots rather than hoping that what's inevitable will not happen. It's a simple interpretation of the science. Okay, the science says that even if we achieve 0 emissions, we will still be underwater. And so it's too late. We cannot reverse this.
Kiribati's highest point is 3 meters above sea level. According to scientists, the country will become uninhabitable within the next 20 years. For us, being surrounded by only water feels a little bit claustrophobic, but we see none of that fear with the eye Kiribati. They don't seem to be overly concerned. Surprisingly, nobody is making plans to leave their home nation. Instead of being desperate about their future, the Kiribati seem extremely hopeful. People are even trying to reinforce the shoreline by cultivating mangrove plants.
That place right there, that's where the first place we started our mangrove planting. We planted all the way along the coastline as an act of, something to prevent coastal erosion. Right?
The project thrives on volunteers willing to fight for their land.
We learned from the scientists that Kiribati is one day will underwater. But for us, we don't want to think about that yet. That's why we keep on working together with our communities. How can we adapt to these changes first? And that's why we work closely with them. We plant mangroves. We do a lot of campaigns. We do a lot of cleaning up. We just want to help our country.
And if I put it in a Kiribati context, it's a very important plant. First of all, planting trees is good for the environment. And then this one, it acts like a natural protection from everything that is coming through our way, like storm surges, runoffs, and everything. It also acts as a nursery home for fishes. I think it's the best seed plant I can think of.
Just one last question. How long does it take before it gets that big?
Okay, so that site, where it's so tall and everything, it's been there for a while. It's like 10 years now.
So the first plants are now 10 years old. Mangrove plants only become useful after 15 years. Seems long, knowing the country will become uninhabitable within 20 years' time.
Well, that's what scientists say. We are not scientists. Maybe we are naturalists. We started with the greenhouse gases. We don't know what greenhouse gases in our language. See? And then they talk about global warming. Oh, what's that? And then now it's climate change.
I believe that climate change is there, but it's not as much as as being frightened of it and trying to, find a way to run away or whatnot. So.
So while we thought everybody was preparing for a mass migration, someone is even going the opposite direction.
I was always curious about Kiribati because the way, grandmas talk about their place growing up, it sounded like a paradise.
Lulu is an American journalist with Kiribati ancestors. 1 year ago, she arrived in Kiribati.
And so for me, I was like, oh man, I have to go back there before it's all gone, because I want my kids to have that sense of culture that I grew up with. And the only way I knew how to pass that on was to come back here and absorb as much as possible before it was all gone, so that I could pass it on to the next generation.
Clearly, not everyone in Kiribati is aware of how critical the situation really is. Something Lulu has also been noticing.
People here, they have a big gap of information. They don't know much about climate change. If you try to explain to someone here who's, lived in this environment their whole life, that giant icebergs are melting, it's not something they can really picture because, it's an iceberg. There's no icebergs here. And it's hard to imagine the magnitude of an iceberg when you're on an island that's so small.
That gap of information seems to be understandable for the older generations. But the youngsters get their information at school, where they learn about climate change. We're curious to see what the students think about the situation in their country.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. And today we're going to talk about who believes in climate change and who doesn't believe in climate change. Now that we have talked about the causes and the effects, the question now is, who believes in climate change? If you believe in climate change, put your hands up. Maya, we show it by hands. Who believe in climate change? Hands up, high. Hands up. All right, we have fewer than those who believe in climate change. Who can tell us why you don't believe? Tell us your reasons why you believe it or not. Right. Yeah, thank you.
We've already heard a lot of confusion about climate change. But the fact that even the younger generations, those who will be forced to move away from their country, refuse to believe in the consequences, that's something we had never expected. They rather put their faith in the Bible.
Do you believe in climate change?
I've seen climate change, the consequences of climate change, but I don't believe as a religious person. There's a thing in the Bible where they say that God sends His person to tell the people of that there will be no more floods. Yeah, so I'm still believing in that, and the reason I believe in that is because I'm afraid, and I don't know how to get all my 50 or 60 family members away from it. So, yeah, that's why it's really, I'm afraid, but I'm just putting it right behind me. So, because I just don't know what to do. Yeah, sorry, excuse me.
People here are so religious. It's because it's a subsistence lifestyle, and that it's a very religious and very dependent on things outside of your control.
They're definitely religious, With 99.9% of the population believing in God, Kiribati is one of the most religious countries in the world. There are three main religions on the island. The most popular one is Catholicism. Then, the Presbyterian Church, and last but not least, the Mormons.
Do you think that climate change is real?
We've been taught in the church that we live in the last days. The last days is a time before, the second coming of Jesus Christ, and we were told, very clearly in the scriptures that prior to that there will be a lot of things that we will see, and part of that will be the change in climate.
But to predict the country coming underwater in the next 50 years or so, I'm not really agree with that, because I think that only God can tell the future.
Can you say when, what hour, or what date that we are going to sink? Nobody knows. The life and the future is not with the scientists, it's with God. That's why I am encouraging the government not to accept this, to reject it. Because the scientists do not really know what is going to happen.
I really believe that God is watching over us, and we just have to have faith. And that's why we need to strengthen our families and the individuals to have faith in the Lord Jesus Christ.
So the lives of the Kiribati are in the hands of God. Officially, the religious leaders believe in climate change, but in the end God will save them all. And the longer we talk to them, the more absurd their arguments get.
Those people who are destroying creation are not religious. They are scientists, and I don't believe they are religious. Because if they are religious, they will respect creation.
You mean actually that because people don't believe in God anymore, we have climate change?
Yeah, we are. I believe in that. Because if you are believing in God, you respect His creation. And if not, you destroy creation. That's my faith.
There are some that saying Kiribati is, instead of sinking, it's expanding. Comparing some of the maps that we've got, many years ago, they said that Kiribati is expanding because Kiribati is, it's a fragile country, and it goes with the currents. It is not solid around, so it can be filed up in one side, it can be filed up in the other side. But again, I hope that we're not sinking.
Your entire world is an island, like 2 to 3 kilometers long. And, you grow up with like the same few hundred people, a few thousand people your entire life. And if somebody from the outside world comes in and tells you everything you've ever known, loved, or experienced is just going to disappear completely, it's just, I don't know, it's really hard to comprehend. Like, imagine if somebody came to your house and was like, oh, everything you know, loved, never touched, knew, or recognized is going to disappear tomorrow. I mean, you wouldn't believe them. And even if you did believe them, what are you going to do about it? It's, you live your daily life. It's not like you have control over the world. I think that's why the religious leaders here are saying, well, we believe in climate change, but God will save us. Because if God doesn't save us, then who will? Like, we're a very small country. We can't really save ourselves. And I guess we're in the hands of God, or maybe the mercy of the bigger countries. I'd rather be in the hands of God.
You've got to be brutally realistic. And as a leader, I had no choice but to think like that. To think about something that the rest of the people do not wish to think about. And God is not going to come down. He's given us the capability, the talent, the intellect to deal with it. And so we've read the science, and so let us act, okay? You just don't wait for something to fall out of heaven. That is not Christianity, that's stupidity.
Even me being here, right? Like, I came in with that image of, oh my God, my entire island's disappearing really quickly and I have to come in and like save as much of the culture as possible. And then I've been here for about a year, and even I've gotten lulled into that. You know, I think we can, maybe we can build enough seawalls, maybe we can stay here.
In the meantime, Anote Tong retired from politics. When we asked if this had something to do with the numerous climate deniers in this country, he didn't want to answer. But he's definitely not ready to give up his fight.
I think what the world has got to understand is we would be the first of the people who would be dislocated as a result of what is happening on climate change. But I can guarantee you we will not be the last. And so the world has got to be ready for what's going to happen in the future. They've got to understand that it's going to happen, and it's going to be on a massive scale.
We were expecting to find an anxious country in the midst of a mass migration. But besides a former president, everyone is burying their heads in the sand. It seems like only a disaster can convince people the country is actually in danger. And hopefully by then, it won't be too late for the 115,000 Kiribati and their paradise.
Even if people say that this is just a flat, little, poor country, but because it's our home, it's the sweetest place for us as Kiribati. And we are happy to have this beautiful country. You have the mountains, we have the oceans. And beautiful blue oceans. And the beautiful sun that makes us happy every day.
And brown.